Good everybody. Hi, my name is Morgan, and I studied abroad in New Zealand about a year ago. And I'm going to talk to you guys about the experience I had learning Māori there, which is the indigenous language in New Zealand. There's about 150,000 people that speak it, is the official figure, and I'm interested in endangered languages. So I went to New Zealand with the eye to immerse myself in Māori culture and try and learn that side of the country and the language. But before I start, I'm going to do a pōwhiri, which is a traditional Māori introduction that you need to do before you speak in public. So, haere mai, ko Mississippi te awa, ko Congo te roto, ko St. Paul te pa, ko Chicago te ne, ko Mokena Ahau. And this was one of the first things I learned in Māoridom, and right away you notice that you're the last and least important thing on a long list of natural monuments, which is very humbling and puts you in your place. But it's also interesting because the higher up you go, the more likely you are to share one of these mountains or rivers with someone that you're talking to. So it's also a way to create a connection with who you're speaking to. So to give you some idea where I was, this is a map of New Zealand. I was at Auckland, which is the largest city in New Zealand, and it's the center of the Māori population in New Zealand. It was rural, but is becoming increasingly urban. And so I was hoping to point to this, but Auckland is right above where it says North in North Island. And I was really confused when I got there and learned the Māori term for this island and the region that Māori is in, or sorry, not Māori, Auckland is in as the tail of the fish. I mean, if anything, it looks like maybe the horn of a narwhal. But, study abroad is supposed to turn your world upside down, right? So in Aotearoa, that was true. In Māori cosmology, it's totally flipped over. So then it makes a lot more sense as a tail. Aotearoa is the Māori name for New Zealand. It means land of the cloud. It's often exoticized and translated as long white cloud, but it just means cloud. Auckland is called Tamaki Makaurau, meaning the harbor desired by all, and it is, as you can see, really gorgeous. So this is, speaking of gorgeous, this is where I got to learn Māori actually. This is the marae at the University of Auckland. The marae is like a meeting house. It's a sacred forum that Māori kids would go to to play with their friends, but it's also where you'd start and end wars. It's served as the equivalent of church or something like that. So there's a lot of rituals associated with it. You take your shoes off before you went inside. You didn't take pictures of the inside, which is unfortunate because it was really beautiful. But there were lots of carvings on the inside as well. It made it kind of hard to pay attention in class, but it was a really great place to learn. So my class was really interesting to me, actually. I was not expecting to see such enthusiasm for the language because I'd read that it was basically moribund before I went down there. And I had native speakers for my professor at my TA. There were lots of Māori kids in my class, some of whom spoke it already, just wanted to keep interacting with it, and some of whom had never seen it before in their life. There were 3 study abroad students, including myself, and some Pākehā, which is the Māori term for European ancestry New Zealanders, which was really cool because it was a great sort of attitude towards the language learning that I wasn't necessarily expecting. And we had not just students, but people from the community who wanted to come and learn the language, including the host for Top Chef New Zealand. That he was in my class and I had no idea who he was until I saw his face on a poster walking home from school. I was like, oh, that's Steve or whatever. And I also got to use my Māori a lot more outside of class than I would have thought. The first thing I did was I was proactive and I joined Ngātaurira Māori, which was the Māori student organization. They made a special dispensation for study abroad students so that you could join it. And that was awesome. I mean, we went on retreats and we did sleepovers in the marae, and I got to, it was all through this Māori culture, and we'd speak Māori to each other. When I ran into these kids on the bus or walking to school, and I made a bunch of friends instantly, which is, that's an amazing thing on a study abroad program. That was a gimme. There's also Māori television, but I wouldn't know much about it because my host family were really into sports, so I watched a lot of rugby. And I spoke with my friends who were on study abroad programs and were also studying Māori. Like Tim, I had a Nina to speak to. My lovely girlfriend Nina was studying Māori down on the South Island, so we got to speak to each other in Māori in New Zealand, and we still do now if we want to say something how much something costs and you don't want anyone else to hear. And now I'm going to talk about the really cool things about Māori that make language geeks like me really excited to learn stuff like this. One of the first things I discovered that was really different from any other language I've studied was phonemic vowelling. What that means basically is, in English if you say house or house, they mean the same thing. People will just think you tripped when you were saying the second one. But in Māori, how long you hold a vowel really makes a difference. So wahine means woman, but wahine means women. It's the plural. And matua means father, but matua means parents, and interestingly not fathers. And then there are some other pairs like keke for cake and keke for armpit, which is important, and hupu for pigeon, and kuku for muscle. And this, the inclusive and exclusive pronouns for we or something that is in Māori is really interesting and I miss it after not having it in English. It's basically a way to signal whether you're including or excluding the person you're speaking to when you say we. And you might not think about that that much, but it's really useful. For instance, if you want to say, so we're going to the movies tonight, you know, it's kind of ambiguous, whether you're including the person in the group or not, but in Māori there's two different ways to say that. If you say, ka haere mao ki te whare pikitie tēnei po, that means me and this other person, and not you, are going to the movies tonight. But if you say, ka haere tau ki te whare pikitie tēnei po, that means you and I are going to the movies tonight. It'll be fun. And it's not rude, which is an amazing thing to be able to access at a linguistic level, and you really miss it once you have it. And because the two languages are in constant contact, Māori and English, everyone who speaks Māori also speaks English, not the other way around. There are quite a few borrowings from English into Māori, but what surprised me was how often people use Māori words in everyday New Zealand English, even people that had learned none of the language. So kia ora, which is what I said at the beginning, is like the sort of bread and butter way to say hello in New Zealand. You find it from the North Island to the South Island. Whānau is a way to say family, but people use it a lot. If you've seen Lilo and Stitch, it's cognate with ohano from Hawaiian. Iwi means tribe in a Māori context, but you never say tribe, you'd say iwi. And kai means food, and that's a really great word because it means food almost anywhere in the South Pacific, and there's a lot of food in the culture. So for instance, the next word is kai kai, which is a reduplication, right? So if someone invites you over for kai, you have some tea and maybe a sandwich or something, it's good. If someone invites you over for kai kai, you're not going to want to eat for like the whole day beforehand, and you're going to want to like bring larger pants. Similarly, hangi is an underground oven, which makes some really good roasted fruit and stuff. And then there are lots of terms for all the different animals that you see on New Zealand. So a hoiho is an indigenous penguin. It's also the loan word for horse. A tui is a parson bird. Kiwi, I don't have a picture of a kiwi, but you guys know what a kiwi looks like. Yeah, they're funky birds. The kea, which is this guy on the right, an alpine parrot that likes to eat cars. Not kidding. The middle bird is a kakapo, which is probably like the most innocent looking animal on the planet. It's a ground parrot and it can't fly. And then on the left you have pukeko, which are swamp hens, and there were like hundreds of these in the house, or in the park right next to my house. So yeah, it was neat to see all these words in English. And I came away, this is one of the things that made me come away with like a more positive view of language revival, especially where English is the dominant language, because that's something I'm really interested in, and usually it's kind of a bleak picture. So this was a real great positive learning experience, and I definitely take a lot away from it. Thanks.